966.
Joining us now on the 966, a very special guest, His Highness Prince Waleed bin Nasser Al-Saud. Prince Waleed is CEO of Mukatafa, a consultancy based in Riyadh that brings together the public and private sectors in Saudi Arabia, forming an ecosystem that enables the private, public, and third-party sectors to collaborate, integrate, and grow together as the kingdom drives forward with Vision 2030. Prince Waleed, hello. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very excited and glad that I'm talking to both of you.
Well, Prince Waleed, we are delighted you're here, and every guest has a story of how they came to the 966. Sometimes they're just in our network friends, and we invite them, and they say yes. Other times it's a long pursuit, like this one. You and your team came to the U.S. in July, and I was not aware of Mukatafa. And I looked at it and I said, wow, this is fascinating stuff. This is really a sweet spot and an important area of need. Let's invite them. And so we started this process late in July. And I want to say your people are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, shout out to Al-Saud. And I also want to say for our listeners, our viewers, mukatafa.com, the website is first rate. Mm-hmm. It really is. It does give you a real insight on what they do. And I'd like to do two things with you, if I may, Prince Waleed. Are you calling in from Dubai?
Correct.
Exactly. So you are in Dubai now for Gulf Host, which is a very big event. This is November 8th to 10th. Gulf Host is MENA's largest hospitality and food service exhibition. 113,000 visitors from 182 countries. Correct. And what's interesting is COOT, do I pronounce that properly?
Yes.
COOT is one of the associations that Mukatafa has stood up and runs, is partnering with Gulf Host as the official strategic partner to present a full day of sessions and workshops, which is something you did yesterday, right?
Correct.
The lineup looked amazing. All the issues and topics that you addressed, really impressive. So what I'd like to do, I'd like to go back to the beginning and say, and have you tell us, you are founder and not only CEO, but founder of Mukatafa, why you thought it was needed, how you went about getting it stood up and started. And then let's come back to this COOT association in this event in Dubai as sort of a case study of what Mukatafa does and is doing really well. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Then let me start before even creating Mukatafa. In 2008, I joined McDonald's Saudi Arabia. They were going through a transformation. They restructured their business, and I was asked to join for a year, actually, just to go through the transformation, just to do the systems and so on. They believe I'm good at, governance, HR, structuring, and so on. And I, loved the concepts, and I wanted to join an international organization to learn from, the experience. A year after we joined, McDonald's globally started what they call a bold plan. It started in China, then they took the experience or the practice to the world. We were in Orlando. Usually they have their annual convention. And we talked about doing the same, doubling the number of stores in Saudi Arabia. At that time, it took the company 15 years to build 75 stores. And we decided in 3 years to double that number, so 25 every year. And we said, let's do the due diligence, ensure that everything is possible. We checked the suppliers, we checked all, the different needed element to double in 3 years. And we came back with two issues. One issue is employment. So doubling the number of people in 3 years, how we can maintain the culture, how we maintain the skills, the quality of people. The other one is how to expedite the regulations to get permits and so on. At that time, employing Saudis with that large number was a challenge. The second thing was to open a store in Saudi Arabia takes you not less than 8 months if everything is, working perfectly to have your business up and running. 8 months is just too long for opening 25 stores in 1 year. And if we want to build 75, that would be a big challenge. So I was assigned the two files, the HR and the government procedures. And I started working with the government. At that time, there was no taxes, so the government has no interest in growing the private sector. And everything, the economy was driven by the government. So it took us a while to go around and convince the government why they should support us to open, to expand. That will bring jobs, will bring local content, will improve the economy, this and that. And things moved in the right direction. And we were able to do that. Things that used to take 8 months start to take, 2 weeks or 3 maximum. And we were able to achieve the plan. After we finished the bold plan, there was nothing, challenging, I would say, to do. So I stepped out. At that time, after I stepped out, it was about the introduction of the Vision 2030. And by the way, I joined McDonald's to stay 1 year. I stayed 9 years. So I love the place. Then when I left McDonald's, it was just the first year of the Vision 2030. And after, I would say, 6 months of the launch of the vision, many of the friends in the industry, CEOs, leaders, and so on, owner of businesses came to me and they said, we're facing a lot of issues that are impacting negatively our industry, the food and beverages. And we would, since now you're independent, you don't represent a brand, we would, as an industry, come together and we would like you to organize us and represent the industry to align the industry with Vision 2030. And I told the members at that time that I've never done such thing, and it's not, something I know. They said, try it and do it for 6 months and then leave it to us. And I said, okay, I'll do it for 6 months, but no more. I said, okay, we started. What happened is that we hired a research company, collected data about the industry, how big it is. And this is something we, until today, we lack, which is good quality data about the businesses. So what we've done, collected how many people we employ, how many females, how much we spend on training, how much we spend on the economy, all of that. Then we start, going around and advocating for the industry, why it should be included in the Vision 2030. Before we did that, actually, there were ministers saying, if we close down 50% of the F&B in Saudi, there's no impact because they don't really contribute to the economy. It was to that level. So we went around, we talked to many officials in Saudi, till we reached the Minister of Economy, His Excellency Mohammed Tuwajri, and we presented to him all about the information we have. He used to be the head of the National Transformation Program. So he said this in English. He said, this is a national hidden treasure we did not know about. He said, you ticked all Vision 2030 boxes. He said, I'll give you 4 things. I'll make you visible in Vision 2030. I'll work with you on creating new regulations or updating existing one, and will work on economical stimulus for the industry. He said, in return, what are you going to give us? I told him, Your Excellency, give us a month, a month, and we'll come back to you with a plan. And we did. We said we will employ, as an industry collectively, 50,000 Saudi, male and female. We will train 70,000. We will spend this much figure. I don't recall it right now. We will develop an academy specialized on hospitality. We will do a recruitment program. And we gave him, different initiatives that we will do. And we signed on that. And thanks to the member of the industry, we overachieved all the objectives. During that time, the head of the manufacturing committee in the Chamber of Commerce was going around and advocating for the industry, the manufacturing industry. And the minister told him, the Minister of Economy, this is exactly what he told him. He said, "You, the manufacturers, are like zombies. Every one of you is walking, alone. You're not walking collectively. Go and do what Qut is doing." And he said, "Who's Qut?" He said, "The food and beverage industry. This is what they've done, this and that." So he came to me. I did not know him before that, and he said, I met the ministry and we'd like you to do what you did to Qut. And I said, I did this only for Qut, out of friendship to the team, my friends and so on. So he said, we are, in a desperate situation. Manufacturing is something strategic for the country. I said, okay, I'll work with you for 3 months, then you take over. He said, okay. We worked with the manufacturers for less than a month, and then the word went all the way to the Crown Prince that the manufacturers are coming together to advocate for their issues and so on. So he called us in. We met the Crown Prince. We were about 12 people. My role at that time was to organize the priorities. We don't want to go with a shopping list. What are the things that if we fix, will have the highest impact on the industry in terms of GDP, in terms of employment, all the key element that the vision is looking for. And we went with 12 requests, and we met him alone. There was no ministers, no one. He went through all the cards. We did cards. What are the issues? The short description. What's the impact? And what's the solution? And this is something we adopted till today. We never go with a problem. We go with a problem and a recommended solution. Then what happened is one of the members, which is Bandar Al-Khrayif, became the Minister of Manufacturing, and Osama Al-Zamil, who was leading the group, who contacted me, became now the Vice Minister of Manufacturing. So what happened is that the ministry was split. It used to be the Ministry of Manufacturing and the Energy. It was, separated, became its own ministry. We requested so many things. The Crown Prince approved it. Some right away, some took a couple of weeks, some took almost a year before they approved it. What happened then is we stopped, organizing the industry. Both of, two of the members became the ministry and the minister and vice minister, and a third one became a deputy as well. So I said, I'm done. It's only Qut that I'll hand over. What happened is the Minister of Economy at that time said, we have the Umrah industry, which is, the visiting Mecca and Medina, and they want to reach 30 million visitors at that time. And I would like you to look into how we can organize them. And it's a national interest. So I said, okay, I'll go and see the leaders and talk to them. When I was in Jeddah at that time, one of the leaders said, the grocery industry are facing a lot of issues. And I told them about what you do, and they would like to meet you. I said, okay. I met Bin Dawood, which is one of the biggest supermarkets chains in Saudi. It's a listed company. And they said, this is our situation. We want to come together. And, we would like you to start advocating. And then I realized at that time that this is, becoming what I do.
A pattern.
Now I have, yes, I have a quote working with them. I have worked with the manufacturers, Umrah, the grocery. And I saw the value, and I saw that the gap that is existing between the government and its vision, and how they are aligned on achieving that vision, and how fragmented the private sector, and because of historical reasons, very fragmented. Like the minister said, they're zombies. They don't work together. We don't have, trade association. We don't have unions, all of that. So they never work together. So what happened is, I said, the vision 2030 is a division of all of us. It's not the vision of, the crown prince. And we said, let's come together and, become specialized at bringing the two parties together. So we said, let's create Mukatafa, which is standing shoulder to shoulder. And what we work is to build the Mukatafa between the two parties. Then we started, the fashion industry, jewelry, beauty, electronics, home appliances. I hope I don't forget any. Now we have the ride hailing, the Uber, the Careem, and so on, the home delivery, food home delivery as well. All are coming together. Now, after the national industrial strategy is launched, we're working on the manufacturing industry. We have 8 sectors that we're gonna organize. So basically, to give you the methodology that we've developed, what we do actually is we go and we talk to the leaders, the private sector leaders, one by one, and we try to convince them why they need to come together, why it's in their benefit to sit across the table from their main competitor and find a common ground. What are the issues that are either impacting the growth of the industry, the cost of doing business, or the ease of doing business? Coming together, having one voice, one priority, that will help us to really work with the government, and they really listen. When we come together, they truly listen. And we achieved so many things during the years just by doing so. After we do that, we bring them together. We've developed a methodology that Al-Hanouf is leading, how to identify the issues the industry is facing, and we have a methodology for that as well. Then we align with the government on their priority. Then we develop initiatives, how to solve such issues. Lately, before I talk about international investor, we worked with many ministries on creating new policies or updating old policies. And we continue to do that. We monitor and we update. We're sitting today because of the level of impact that the trade association brings, which is far exceeds the only channel today that exists, which is the Chamber of Commerce. We sit in so many committees, so many partnerships. Everything we do, we support with research. So everything we say is supported with numbers, facts, and so on. When we develop recommendation, we ensure that we look at the world, what's happening, how did they solve it, and we develop that, bring that to the private sector for them to decide what's the best solution for the issue. We never develop a solution. They do that. We only help them with the information that we bring, and then we capture such solution. After we do that, then we advocate with the public sector. And we find most of the time, we find a common ground. The government wants something, the private wants something else, and we are an independent party, so we can talk to both of them about what can be done now, next year, the year after, so on and so forth. Only lately that we started working with international investors or international companies that wanted to come to Saudi Arabia. What we're doing actually is 4 things. We're providing information about the industry that they're interested in looking at. When they come to Saudi, we manage the networking, that the meetings they need to have, and we ensure that they meet the right people, not to waste their time, going to different ministries or different official. We take them exactly to who they should meet. Then whatever is agreed on with the minister or the deputy and so on, we ensure that we follow up to ensure what was agreed on is being actioned. The third thing we do is if they're looking for partners in Saudi Arabia, we know the local businesses and we can recommend who are the known businesses or the specialized businesses that they should be talking to, and we link them together. Lastly, is if they need an investor to come in and invest, and we know the funds that are available, we know the banks that are interested in certain industry, and we link them together. So basically, this is what we do in Mukatafa in a very short description.
And that was outstanding and really informative and fascinating, because I had it completely upside down. And I say that because when you get into Mukatafa and you look at it, you go, oh, they created Mukatafa, and then these associations, ensued. Yeah. And in fact, it's just the reverse. You remind me. So right now, you have Koot, which is restaurants and cafes. Sanaa, which is manufacturers, correct?
Exactly.
Moan.
Exactly, that's a grocery. Exactly.
Akilat, is that, and those vendors?
Exactly.
And then ZY, which is fashion, jewelry, and beauty. And by the way, that's a pretty cool logo for that ZY.
Thank you.
I will say this, Prince Waleed, and you remind me, one of my early bosses, who was a terrible boss, but one of the best things he said to me, he said, look, Richard, if you ever want something done, don't ask somebody who's not busy. Ask somebody who's busy, because clearly they're busy for a reason.
Okay.
And I can see this is what's happened to you. You had your success with Koot, obviously, and your McDonald's success, and people started looking at you and say, hey, this guy's getting stuff done. We need to ask him to do something.
Exactly.
But let me a bigger picture, and something maybe you speak to. This is a little theoretical. I find it fascinating that trade associations are a thing in Saudi Arabia, and they weren't previously. And is it correct to say, so in 15 years ago, if you were a manufacturer, or you had a number of restaurants, the way to do business was to essentially get a patron in the key ministry, find somebody who can help you out and maybe give you an inside route here or advice there. But it's a very one-way, point-to-point thing. It has nothing to do with the greater industry. It has nothing to do with the larger purpose of creating jobs, employment, training, this sort of thing. And would you say, so I'm fascinated that trade associations now not only exist in Saudi Arabia, but are critical to moving sectors ahead.
Absolutely. See, you're absolutely right. On the past, and when I say in the past, before 2016, so it's only recently, to get insights of what the government is trying to do or their strategy, or you want to update a policy. It used to be only for the big companies that they have access to the government. After the division, transparency became, changed totally. Today, the information and the access that we have is passed through the associations to all the members, big, medium, and small. The information that we pass to the government is the issues that facing the small, medium, and large. So everybody now have that access. And through the association, even the small company, if they have an issue, they can easily raise it to the association. And there is a mechanism to ensure that it's a genuine issue. We back it with data and so on, and then advocate with the government. So things truly changed in that on that site.
And it's interesting as you pivot now with the national investment strategy, which is a continuation expansion, and we see one of the things I think Lucian and I are really interested in Mukatafa is when we look at 2030 and we're sort of down in the weeds on Vision 2030, we're always trying to assess implementation, because ultimately that's the thing that matters in terms of success. And Mukatafa is right there at the heart of this. And now we're looking as to expand the national investment strategy. So the things you provide for, and this is for anybody listening, for an international investor, they can come to. So let's say you're a large, grocery chain. I mean, they can come to Mukatafa and you can sort of take them by the hand and say, all right, this is who you should be talking to, and so on and so forth.
Let's talk about large and small. Okay, there could be someone with a innovation or something even small that they want to bring to Saudi. They see the right market is in Saudi. What we do, first of all, one of the 4 things we do is we provide information. So they said, what's happening in that industry? We provide them with that information. If they want to move to the second level, which is we want to meet partners, then we'll take them directly we'll give them recommendation, link them with the right people. If they need investor, we do the same. Big company, which is usually is different, need. Because they're coming big, they would like to sit with the decision makers and understand where they are going with their strategy in terms of their businesses. Sometimes they are willing to come, but they need an exception here or there. And usually, and this is happening today, ministers are authorized to give exceptions to projects that will have an impact on the economy, either on employment, either on exports, so many things, and they will listen. So what we do is we first educate ourselves on who they are, what they want to achieve. Then before we get them to meet the official, we go and we meet them and we talk to them to ensure that they are the right people, they have the right information they need. They might ask some question before they meet them. So we do our homework before the company come to Saudi. Then we take them around, meet, we have the agenda, like I said, and then we have the minutes of meeting. All of that we do in Mukatafa. And all of this actually for 2 reasons. One, to ensure that when they meet, they already, both of them are briefed and they know what they're going to talk about. 2 is that whatever they agree on is executed. Most of the time is that when 2 leaders meet, they see eye to eye, they see the future, and they agree on something. When they leave the room, nothing happens.
Right.
Because it's been delegated to someone in the ministry or in the company to do what's needed, but it doesn't. So what we do, we ensure that we follow up and we update both leaders that you agreed on this. This is where we are today. This is an obstacle. This is how we solve it until it's translate to the ground and we see it happening. And this is with everything we do. We ensure, one is that the right people meet. Two, they are ready and understanding what are the issue. Both of them look at the solutions or the recommendation we're doing. Then both of them agree, and then we do our work. We follow up until it happens.
And you make a great distinction between a large company and an SME. I mean, many large companies have their own means to get SMEs. I mean, if you're in Tampa, where you went to school, you don't have the means to get over to Saudi and set up and do these rounds on your own. And you referenced it in the early days of Coot. One of the big things that people need is market research. Correct. And they can't pay for that. And they wouldn't know how to get it if they could. Correct. So it's fascinating. It seems so simple, but it is not. But I mean, it makes so much sense, and it's such a resource. And it's also interesting as Mukatafa, gets into different sectors, and you've already got sort of 5 specific associations, and I suspect you'll continue if the pattern continues and people keep asking you to help them out.
It's 8 today. What's on the net on the website is the real estate development is one.
All right.
The food delivery is another, and the ride hailing as well.
Nice.
And we have other on the pipeline that we're evaluating whether to get into or to postpone. So,
and the beauty of that is market research, market understanding. So you don't have to now create the wheel. In any of these sectors now, you have a fundamental understanding of the sector, and you can really help right out of the gate. Which brings me back. It's funny you said the food delivery, because you just signed, and is this unusual? Mukatafa just signed a relationship with Foodix, which is the largest in this area. Is this a standard practice?
See, when we create associations, in Mukatafa we have 2 functions and 2 teams. One team, maybe this is a good, to give you a little bit of how we're structured in Mukatafa. We have one team that is the advocacy team. They focus fully on engaging the public sector. Their experts and their skills is on advocating, networking, being available in the ministries to follow up on whatever was agreed on with the leaders of the industry and the ministry. So that's one part. Under advocacy as well is research and policy, where we have specialized researchers and analysts. Their role is just to collect data and everything that we're looking at, and then develop policy, because both are so technical. So they work on developing policy and recommendation. The other function is what we call the NMO, which is growth. Mm-hmm. The NMO team, their job is to focus on engaging the private sector, ensuring that bringing them together, to communicating all the information we receive from the public sector on a timely manner, to be credible, reliable. We get their information right away to share it. The third thing is to manage the association. Part of managing the association goes down to 2 things: the governance, making sure that they follow all the bylaws, government regulations, and so on, how to run the association, because there's a board, there is the general assembly, there are audit committee, and so on. So they need to manage that. The other thing that they need to do is generate revenues for the association, so it can fund itself and grow. So they do sponsorships, which is happening with Foodix. They do shows, that's why we're in Dubai working with the Dubai World Trade Center. the Gulf host, we are participating with them this year in Dubai. However, what we agreed on, which will happen in June of 2023, is the Saudi food show. That will become the biggest food show in the region. So it's all food manufacturing all the way to food retail. So that's the agreement now that's happened between Qut and Dubai World Trade Center.
Is the Saudi food show scheduled?
June 20. Yes, I'll get you the right date. June 20, I believe.
Yes, and in keeping with Saudi Arabia of late, it has to be the biggest.
Yes,
Of course.
absolutely. Biggest economy and currently biggest economy in the region.
Exactly.
Without looking at what's happening now. Things are changing in the ground in Saudi Arabia, be it, let's talk about the obvious, the Giga project, which a lot of people really don't know about what's happening in the ground. We have Ad Dir'iyya, a huge project that first phase is already done. Red Sea, Q1, the first phase is done, so people will start going there. We have Neom. Neom, I'll give you just a figure to see how much of work is happening. Neom, on a daily basis, there are an average 3,500 mid and higher management people in Neom doing work. And this figure came because we were looking for, there was an opportunity to engage the hotel industry to open hotels in Neom. And that's, a good number of people where you can have a good hotel, running in Neom. So there's a lot of activity. At Dir'iyya and Riyadh, so we see all of the activity that's happening and so on and so forth. So these are the big projects that are happening. If we go down to a different level, what's changing in Saudi, as you know, the one of Vision 2030 objective was to bring females to the workplace and to achieve 30% by 2030. Last year, we achieved 35%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's changes happening quickly and impacting the economy, the purchasing power, all of that. 100 million tourist visitor that has been targeted to come to by 2030 with Al-Ula, the other places. So now we're talking a big economy in the region without all of this happening. If we add that to it, the numbers that we're targeting are achievable. So even if we talk about Vision 2030, Riyadh Vision 2030, that's a different story even, where Riyadh will become in 10 years. So different shows, different, companies should come and look seriously to come to Saudi.
One of the, and people refer to it as a sleeping giant, that is awakening in many ways. But one of the interesting things, as we've watched Vision 2030 and we very closely, so 2016, now we're 7 years into it. We're Saudi Arabia is well into it, but in so many phases, it's transitioning from conceptualization to implementation. You're seeing things that seemed improbable. I mean, when they first came out with 100 million visitors in whenever, and people would go, "This is Saudi Arabia? Are you kidding me?" Yeah. And now you see they're hitting the numbers. They're going to get the numbers, and you see how much it makes sense. We did a recent in a recent episode. We talked about the tourism industry and the aviation industry, and they talked about what a significant percentage of global GDP is, and they represent, and why a country like Saudi Arabia would go so hard after those. And then you see why you would do it. Then they say, well, we're going to do it, and now you see them doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's a fascinating, if you're watching the arc from the beginning, it's just fascinating to see how it goes, which is one reason why Mukatafa was so interesting to us, We know about Neom, we know about Doria, and so far, as people know, I don't think most people know that Mukatafa is there and doing this kind of really substantial, effective and key work. So this has been really interesting to have you help us understand what Mukatafa is doing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How big is your
Uh,
organization, Prince Waleed? How many employees work with you at Mukatafa?
Today we're 42, and we just finished our structure for 2023, and we will be around 70 by Q1.
Mumtaz.
And are you?
Mumtaz.
Is it a public or a private organization?
Private.
Yeah.
So far, it's a partnership between me and the director of advocacy, Razan, and this is what actually we do in Mukatafa. If they, stay a certain number of years and they play a role, they become partners.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically, the director of advocacy is this within CETA?
No, this is with Razan within. Yeah.
She's the senior advocacy director, a young Saudi female that's having an impact on what Mukatafa is doing, and now she's a partner, and we have 2 in the pipeline that will become partners soon.
Fascinating. And again, I think that's why it's important to put an emphasis on founder and that founder and CEO title, because you clearly identified an inefficiency and went and filled it. And it's been really, it's got to be really encouraging to see the responses you've gotten at all levels.
Yeah, absolutely. See, today we're amazed of how where we are today, and that is because of 2 reasons. One, the private sector, they saw that we have a solution for their needs, so they're really committed to what we're doing, to the point as a board of director, usually, they meet every 3 months, sometimes every 6 months. Some board of directors, we meet on a monthly basis. And they are, a big organization, and they find the time to meet because they're seeing the impact that Mukatafa is bringing to their businesses. And they want to know what's happening, and they want to make sure that we're, in the right direction as agreed. So, and all the associations today are on every other month we meet. And we're trying to extend, make that 3 months, but they're so eager about it. The other thing that's actually amazing is how the public sector is interacting with us. They are not looking at us as a private company trying to, by the way, we don't work, we don't contract with the government. We only contract with the private sector. So we represent the private sector. So our bosses are the private sector, not the public. However, how the public sector became so open to us in sharing information, we reached a point that they pick up the phone and say, guys, we're thinking of developing a strategy, or we're thinking of developing a policy. We would like to engage the private sector. And that's what we do. And this is the achievement, actually. When we started, we were advocating for existing policies. So it's already issued. The impact is there, and we're trying to mitigate that impact or reduce it as much as possible. However, today, we are co-creating the policies or the strategy. And that makes a big difference, actually. Even the private sector now, they feel the ownership of that strategy or that policy, even if it doesn't meet their needs 100% or their wishes 100%. But they are engaged and they go and execute it. And however, we still have a long way to go. Not all ministries we're working with yet. Not all ministries are welcoming the idea of, really embracing the private sector. They think they know better and they can do it by themselves. But that's one, part, but it's a small, I would say, number of ministries. But on the other side, we reach a point where ministers saying, don't do this before you ask Mukatafa. Before we continue doing this, ask Mukatafa, because they know we have no interest and we have no conflict. We're independent, and we see who are the right audience, who are the right people to get information from. We do the research. And by the way, sometimes we, after we bring the two together, we have a different opinion, because we always have a responsibility in ourselves, because always in the room there is the government, there is the private sector, but the individuals are missing, or the consumer is missing. And we always want to make sure that their voice is heard as well. I'll tell you an example. We're doing a study on the e-commerce, the cross-border e-commerce. And Saudis are buying a lot of products from overseas. The local businesses are being impacted because of that. Products are coming from all over, but much cheaper, but they don't follow the local standards. They don't have, businesses, they don't employ, and they cannot compete. And we're looking into that, and we're doing a study, but we included 700 Saudi and 300 locals, expats living in Saudi, to understand their point of view. Are they with why they prefer to buy abroad, and to ensure that their position or their opinion is voiced. Actually, this would lead me to something that we're thinking of doing in the near future. See, not all policies are business related. There are so many policies that's impacting individuals. We aim to come to a point where we can do public consultation, meaning that there is a government policy that we need to include individuals on that policy. They have a say, they understand it, they know it before it comes, and we advocate for their need as well. So now we're starting with the businesses, then we're moving to individuals. So.
Yes, Prince Waleed, I'm surprised the PIF isn't calling, giving all your success to hoping to invest in Mukatafa. Prince Waleed bin Nasser Al-Saud, CEO of Mukatafa. So good to see you again. Thank you so much for your wonderful hospitality last week. Congratulations on all your success. Give our best to Al Hanouf and Razan as well. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure talking to you both, and hoping to see you soon back in Riyadh. Thank you very much.